We're going to begin. Bez Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Chullin Daf Samach Tes, number 69, and we will begin from Daf Samach Ches Samid Beis. Basically, what we learned yesterday was this concept of, do you get a second chance? We know that if you shecht an animal, the uber, the fetus inside, does not need a new shechita, because the shechita of the mother will go on the uber, will go on the fetus. The question is, what happens if the fetus stuck its leg out now and then you shechted it? So then for sure that leg is usher. Question is, do you get a second chance? Can, after the fetus brought its leg out, can it bring it right back in? So we learned the machlokes between Rav and Ula in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rav said, even if it brought it back in, it's not going to help anymore. It's not in the safety zone anymore, so to speak, even if it's now inside the mother's stomach. And Rabbi Yochanan said, no, if you brought it back in, it should be good. And what's Rabbi Yochanan's similarity? Amamar, Lefi Shemitzinu b'Masa Sheni u'Bikurim. Masa Sheni and Bikurim are supposed to be in the walls of Yerushalayim. And the same idea, if it goes outside, so let's say I have Masa Sheni fruit, I bring it outside Yerushalayim, I can't eat it. Now, if I bring it back into Yerushalayim, could I eat it? Yes. Heichen Mitzinu, where do we find this concept? The Ksiv, the Pasuk says, by Masa Sheni, one cannot eat the fruits of Masa Sheni in Tel Aviv. You can't eat it outside Yerushalayim. If the fruits of Masa Sheni went out of Yerushalayim, outside Yerushalayim, v'chazru, and then they came back, mutarim, it's mutar. So that sums up Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. And the Gemara asked the question against Rabbi Yochanan, but we'll see. But Marava Masna Hachi. Marava had a different version of the machlokes between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. And here's the version. Rav says the reason why, even if it brought it back, even if the fetus brought its leg back into the stomach, it's not good, because yesh leideb le'evarim. As soon as one leg is outside the animal, that's considered that leg was born. So once something is born, you can't bring it back into the stomach. Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein leideb le'evarim. There's no such a thing of calling birth on a leg, on just one limb, and therefore, even if it brought it back, it would not be a problem, because it wasn't born. It just brought it back into the stomach. So the Gemara says, "My benayu." What would be the different versions between Rav here and Rav in the previous? You see, Rav in the previous said the same idea, that as soon as it's the leg comes out, it basa basada treifa. Basa basada treifa means a piece of leg, basar basada, that went out in the field, that just broke through a wall. So it's like a treifa. So what's the difference between saying it this way, yesh leideb le'evarim, to saying it's basa basada treifa? And says the Gemara, in other words, according to this version, according to the first version, as soon as it sticks out a partial leg outside, so only the partial leg is asa, the rest of the leg is permitted. But according to this version, if the majority of the leg is outside, and you say yesh leideb le'evarim, it's considered as if it's born, then even the minority of the leg, which is still inside the animal, inside the stomach of the animal, will not be permitted. We go after the majority, and therefore even the entire leg will be usher. That is that. Now the Gemara asks a question. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question according to Rabbi Yochanan. According to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, that we don't say a leg is born, so therefore you could bring it back into the mother's stomach. Hoitzi es uber es yada. Here's when the Gemara goes off into like something fantastic. If the uber, the fetus, stuck out its leg, vechzira, and brought it back in, because of a hitzi es yada, and then it brought the other foreleg out, vechzira, and it kept bringing parts of its body out and then bringing it back in. And if you count up how many parts it stuck out, the majority of the animal came out of the mother's stomach. But the animal, the fetus, brought it back inside the stomach. Maho, what would you say? I'm reading. Do you say hafanafik leruba? Most of the animal already appeared outside the animal. Most of the fetus was already outside the body, and therefore the shechita of the mother will not be good for the shechita of the fetus. Dilma, or do we say, hell, even the hadar, it's fair game. It came back to base. In other words, every time it stuck out an aver, a limb, it brought it back in. So therefore, it's as if it's ein leidel averim. I don't care if it kept doing it for different parts of its body. You don't count it up. Imtim telaim, if you want to say even the hadar, even if you want to say that since it brought it back in, it's in safety zone. So therefore, the shechita of the mother will work on the shechita of the fetus. But what happens? As soon as the fetus brought out its leg, you cut it off. And then you cut the other leg off when it stuck that out. And then you kept cutting pieces of the fetus. But so let's say 70% of the animal, of the fetus, is outside already, but 30% is inside. So you have roiv outside. Maho, is that considered that the animal was born? I'm reading, do you say hanafik leruba? If I count up all the different pieces, all the different limbs, so you get 70%. And therefore, the minority of the animal that's inside this, that remained inside, it will not be yoitze, so to speak, with the shechita of the mother, because the majority of the animal already is outside. Dilma ruba bavas achas beaten. What is it called? What does it mean, born? A born animal means that it all came out at one time, not like a tiny limb came out and you cut it off, then another tiny limb, you cut that off, and then you added up the majority. So therefore, according to the second side, the minority of the animal that still remains inside the mother will be satisfied with the shechita of the mother. Tashma, come in here. We go to Amid Aleph. Zehaklal. This is the rule. The Mishnah said that whenever you shech the mother, that's not the parts that are not part of the mother, mutter, then you were yoitze with the shechita of the mother. What does it mean? She'ein gufay latuyimai. What is that coming to include? Lav latuyik. This extra zaklal includes our strange case, where you kept where the fetus kept sticking out a part of its body, and you cut it off until the majority of the body is outside the animal. And what the Mishnah is saying is that nevertheless, even if you have a minority of the fetus still inside the mother's body, it would be satisfied with the shechita of the mother. And that's what the Mishnah is saying, that it would be satisfied with the shechita of the mother, despite only 30% of the fetus is inside the mother's body. Answers the Gemara, Lloyd. That's not what our Mishnah is including. Latuye kalit b'mei para. That if you find, which we saw yesterday, in the cow, it had a fetus that did not have totally split hooves. It had half a split hoof, but it wasn't totally split. So it was like a camel inside a cow. Believe Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says, the Afagav Dam Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon said, call it ben para asa. Let's say the cow gave birth to an animal. So cow is a kosher animal, but it gave birth to a funny looking cow that does not have split hooves. So Reb Shimon says that funny looking cow is usher. But hani mili it's only if the cow gave birth to a camel. But as long as it didn't give birth, even if the fetus does not have split hooves, but as long as it didn't, the mother didn't give birth to such a fetus, so then when you shech the mother, it would satisfy the shechita for the fetus. Shari, it's permitted to eat. And that's what Eine Gufay, anything that's not part of the original body of the animal, of the mother, mutter becomes permitted with the shechita of the mother. Now the Gemara asks another strange question. Boy Rav Chananya. Rav Chananya asked the question. We know, let's say it straight, that if at a regular case, an animal with a fetus stuck its leg out and never did not bring it back in, and you shechted the mother, so you can eat the rest of the animal except that leg, right? So, but what happens, Boy Rav Chanina, if this same story happened with a kachim that was in the base of Migdash, if it stuck its hand out in the azara, do you say that at the end of the day, it's in the Beis Hamikdash? So there is another barrier, so to speak. You can be in the ballpark, you can be on the ball field, and then you can be in the stadium. So here it's lachavdil, it's in the stadium, it's in the azara. So do you say that once you shech the mother, it's the foot, even if its foot was sticking out, it will still be yaitz the shechita on the fetus? Since the wall of the base of Migdash is a mechitza regarding a wall, it's called a wall because regarding eating kachim, you can only eat it in the confines of the base of Migdash. So it should be considered a mechitza regarding this foot of the animal, and therefore the shechita of the mother will go on the shechita on the fetus, even the fetus's foot, which was outside the animal during the shechita. Dilma, will you say, that's not the wall of the fetus. The mechitza's uba, the real mechitza of the fetus, is imahi. That's the mother. It has nothing to do with the base of Migdash. Abaya said this was not really a question. Ask this question regarding, even according to Rav, that that a fetus that sticks its leg out, it's born, right? So you could ask this question even according to Rav. Let's say you have a kachim column, a shlomim, that's pregnant. You took it to the wall of Yerushalayim, right? You're supposed to shecht it in the base of Migdash. You took it out into Yerushalayim, and it stuck its leg out, and then it brought it back in. So now, would you say that it's born because it stuck its leg out, but the walls of Yerushalayim is a wall, a mechitza for something that Ma'aseh Sheni could be only eaten in that wall, so it's called a mechitza. So you never asked such a silly question. The mechitzas ubar imayim. The real wall of this fetus has nothing to do with the wall, a physical wall around the city. So the real mechitza of the fetus is its mother. Achinami says the same thing. Mechitzas ubar imayhu. That's the way to remember it. The mechitza of the ubar, it's its mother. So even in the Beis Hamikdash, if the fetus sticks its leg out and you shech the mother, you can't eat that leg because there's no shechita on it. Now, Baya Ilfa. Ilfa asked the question. We had a machlokes, but the Chachamim said yesterday that even if it sticks its leg out, let's say you have an animal, the fetus stuck its leg out, and you shech the mother. So you can eat the fetus, but what's the din with the leg? The leg is not nevela. It's at worst, you can't eat it. It's a treifa. You can't eat it. It's a treifa. It's not metama. So Ilfa asked the question, let's say the fetus stuck its foreleg between the two simanim, let's say you shechted one siman, and then all of a sudden the leg shot out, the leg came out, and then you shechted the next siman, the next pipe. What's the question? Do you say that the siman rishon, had it kept its foreleg inside the whole time, so then the siman sheni and the siman rishon are doing the same thing? They make it not a nevela, and you're permitted to eat the entire animal, the entire fetus. But now that it stuck its leg out, so when you shechted the first siman, that was a shechita to permit the animal to be eaten. When you shech the second siman, it cannot be. It's not a shchita to permit the animal to eat. It could only at best mitayr l'dei nevela. So will you combine the two simonim, or not? Amarava kal v'chaymer. That's a kal v'chaymer. Im hoyer loy siman luishin l'shim shein la'atira ba'achila lo yoyer loy l'tari v'dei nevela. Of course, it should work. If you shech the first siman with the foot inside, so that sechting is that siman rishon was a powerful shchita that potentially could be materet to eat and also to be mitaret l'dei nevela. So it does both things. The first siman does two things. The second siman, once it stuck its leg out, has the power to make the materet l'dei nevela. So therefore, they both combine to be mitar l'dei nevela. So again, if the animal, you shechted one siman, and the whole fetus was inside the animal, then it stuck its leg out, and then you shechted the next siman, so then this leg, of course, you can't eat it because it only had shchitas one siman, but it's still not a nevela, it's still like a treifa. Now the Gemara asks a funny question. Another question. Boyo Rabbi Yirmiyah, Mahu Lochesh Lazare. Let's say you have the cow with the red foreleg. Okay, here's the picture of the cow on the left side, and of course we'll call this cow with the red foreleg because it stuck its leg out when they were shechting its mother. What happens if that ben peku? Now, can you eat this cow without shechita? Yes, you can eat the entire cow. You don't have to shecht it because it was in the mother's stomach. But you can't eat the leg. The leg is not a nevela, it's a treifa. So the question is, what happens if that cow marries or mates with a regular cow? If it mated with a regular animal, and the question is, what's the din with the offspring of that regular animal? My area high the ispe is yotzi. Even a regular ben pakua that did not stick its leg out, right? A regular animal, a regular fetus that was yotze, they satisfied the shechita by shechting the mother. Then the kid was born and married and mated with a regular animal. Therefore, there's an opinion that says that if the father of the father is the ben pakua, the mother is a regular animal, the father is the ben pakua. The Amar of Sharshia, the Divrei Oimer Choishin Zera'av, Ben Pakua, Abba Ben Ma'al Yasa, you have a Ben Pakua that mated with a regular animal, Havlad Ein Lo Takana, that you cannot, the offspring, you can't eat it. Why? Because if you look at its father, if you look at the father is considered geschachten, so the offspring is considered geschachten. If you look at the mother, which was a regular animal, you need a shchita. So basically, you have an offspring that one siman needs shchita, one siman does not need shchita. So you can't shecht one siman. So Rabbi Sharshi said you can never eat that offspring. So certainly, even if we're dealing with a ben pakua that did not stick its leg out, and it mated with a regular animal, you can't eat the offspring. So what's your question? Like tzricha the azal ben kapua the kavase mai. This red animal with the red foreleg that was ben pakua, just stuck its leg out. It mated with another regular animal with another ben pakua with that also stuck its leg out. So now, Mao, what do you say like that? The offspring of such a mating, Eva moiled Eva v'chotech le v'shari. What does that mean? That means that would you say that the offspring, that now, if you look at the offspring will have a din like a ben pakua because it's both parents of ben pakua, just with you won't be able to eat the leg. So all you have to do is cut the leg of the offspring and eat the rest of the animal like they're both parents. All you say, the genes of the animal are all over the place. So it's not that the offspring has a bad leg. Its entire body has an isser because when both parents have a problem with their leg, I mean, their leg is treif, the rest of the animal is kosher and doesn't even eat shchita. If both of the animals, if this mated with the same animal, so if this animal mated with the same animal, the redness goes to the body of the offspring, all over the offspring, and therefore you don't know what part is treifa of the offspring, so you're not allowed to eat it. So the Gemara says, Hada Amar, Pshita the Valbazari. Of course, in that case, the genes go all over the place. Because Dim Kain, Suma Yolit Suma, Vikiteya Yolit Kiteya. Anytime you mate two animals, if it's a blind animal, the offspring should be blind. And if it's a animal that can't walk, so then the offspring can't walk. And we don't find that. When the Gemara had like a Havamina, that when you mate two animals, the exact copy happens in the Vlad, which is not true. So there must be, what the Gemara is saying is that the genes go all over the place. So if both parents had a ben pekua with a problem leg, right? So then the offspring will not be able permitted to be eaten, because the problem leg spread throughout the offspring, and therefore the entire offspring is usher. And this is what our question is. Let's say a regular animal, right? When it mates, let's say you have two regular animals that mate. Okay, you have a regular animal on the right side, it mated with another animal, but you can't eat this entire animal. Part of this animal is not kosher, the fats, the blood, right? And yet the offspring you could eat. You don't say, oh, any offspring is a mixture of blood and fats. So why don't you say the same thing? Why don't you say that when an animal that has a problem leg mates with another animal that has a problem leg, the genetics move all over the animal and it's permitted to eat just like any animal. Every animal basically has a problem somewhere. It's the chaylev and the dam. Hachinami noishna. Idilma trei isure amrinin. What the Gemara is saying is, in any animal, you only have two problems. With this animal over here on the right side, you only have two problems with this animal. So the fats and the blood. So when it mates with another animal, so then you say, okay, the Torah said that the offspring is permitted, because the Torah said in that case, two isurim are okay to pass on to the offspring, and the offspring is permitted. But here in this animal, you have three isurim. You have chaylev, dam, and this bad foreleg. So maybe the Torah will not permit you to do that. So the Gemara says, Ulaman, what is your question? What is your question? Either Rab Meir, if you're going according to Rab Meir, Isa v'chelev v'dam ika, Isa yoytze leka. Rab Meir holds there's no such a thing of a bad foreleg, because he holds, he doesn't hold of this whole thing of ben pekua. In fact, if you have an animal that's in the mother's stomach and you shech the animal and the mother, the offspring needs a shchita. So really, this is a regular animal. There's no such a this situation is impossible to Rab Meir, because you can't have a bad leg. And either Rabbi Yehuda holds isa yotzi ika isa chelev adam leka. Rabbi Yehuda holds a ben pekua does not have the problem of chelev and dam. It's interesting. The Tanah we learned in the Mishnah. Gid hanasha noy b'shlil v'chel bayasa divrei Rab Meir. Rab Meir holds a fetus has a problem with its fats, and even if you shechted the mothers, the fats is usher. Rabbi Yehuda eina noy b'shlil v'chel by mutter. The gid hanasha doesn't apply. By you're allowed to eat the gid hanasha of a ben pekua. Not only that, you can have the fats of the ben pekua. You could start a whole restaurant with a ben pekua meat, which every part of the animal is permitted, according to Rabbi Yehuda. So really, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you never have more than one isser on this animal, because you're not going to have the fats of the chaylev isser. You're not going to have the dam either. Ella kol mikoyach lo yamrin d'shari. Anything that comes from an animal the offspring is always mutter. And so we're looking for a question. So here is the Gemara, and this is where we'll stop. And I'll finish it later on the recording, so you'll be able to pick it up, but we're going to stop here. The question, the Gemara over here is looking for a question. Rabbi Yirmiyah started asking a question. The Gemara kept saying, Rabbi Yirmiyah, everything you're asking is so obvious. So what the Gemara is now concluding, what would be Rabbi Yirmiyah's question? What is Rabbi Yirmiyah's question? Because anything that comes from an animal, even if part of the leg is not good, if this has a mate, the offspring is mutter. The question is, what mahu legmoya as chalavai? Can I drink the milk of this animal? Can I drink the milk of a ben pekua? Can I drink the milk of a ben pekua? Chalav de alma, the milk of a regular cow, loike eva menachai. That's not something that comes out of a live animal, dummy, and it should be asa v'shari, because it's always mutter. The milk of a regular animal is mutter. Hai nami loishna. So the milk of a ben pekua should also be permitted. What's the difference? A dilma, or maybe like this: a regular cow, hosam isle tekantali sura b'shchita. A regular cow, you're going to potentially shech the cow. So therefore, there's no aver minachai on the milk. The milk is part of the cow, and the entire cow requires shchita. Hacha, but a fetus, that's the nekeva, right? A regular fetus that was born, and you're already satisfied its shchita through its mother, less late the kantali yisura b'shchita. You're never going to be able to fix the isser of the milk through shchita. So can I drink the milk of a ben pekua? And the Gemara says, Teku, this remains a question. Okay, we'll pause here and I'll finish. Just to correct and make clear the last question of the Gemara, Mahu legmoyes chalavai, it's we're dealing with this animal that is a ben pekua, and it has a bad leg. It's called a yoitze. So, and if that gives off milk, so the question is, does that milk contain isser of the leg inside the milk? A regular animal, you don't have a problem with even a chai, because you could shecht an animal and the milk will be, it's not considered even min a chai. But here, you're not shechting this animal, and this part can never be kosher. This leg can never be kosher. So the Gemara's question is, you can't shecht it because the rest of the animal does not need shchita, and that leg always remains asar. Teiko. So the Gemara asks a question. Here's the source of where do you know that a ben pekua is permitted? Minolan. The pasuk says, "V'chol behema mafresas parsa." Well, let's see if I have the pasuk. V'chol behema mafresas parsa shashar shtei parasos malatzker ba behema oisa techelu. So oisa techelu means that any behema, we darshan any behema, any animal within an animal. So an uber is an animal, and it's within an animal. Oisa techelu, you can eat it. So that's what we darshan. That's what the Gemara is darshaning. So the chol mafra behema, but l'rabba says avayav. So basically, in order to make this drasha work, you have to say that the fetus is called an animal. It's an animal within an animal. Elameata, if you call the fetus an animal, yamira boy. Alamatanan, a marina loiv even be'ubim, like ubrim be'evim, like avrim be'ubrim be'shleim. Let's say you have a whole, let's say carbon shlamim, okay, and you say tamura that the uber inside a chulin animal should be the tamura of this carbon. So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, it doesn't work because an uber is not an animal. What is tamura? You have two animals, one's kashim. You say this should be tamura for this, but here you're saying the uber should be a tamura of a shleimin. that doesn't work because an uber is not a shleiman. So So we see from the Mishnah in Tamura that an uber is not called an animal. And it says the Gemara, you're right. V'chol, we should say v'chol. This is the word v'chol. The behema. Anything inside v'chol, Rabbi says of vlad, right? Even anything inside an animal, as soon as you shech the animal, is permitted. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, so really the fetus is not called an animal, it's called anything inside the animal. As soon as you shech the mother, it's satisfied with whatever inside the animal. So then, if that's the case, let's say you severed the spleen or the kidneys of the mother animal, that you should be able to eat those kidneys because it was inside the mother when you shechted. It was inside the regular animal, the mother animal, when you severed it. And anything in an animal, as soon as it is satisfied with the shechita of the animal. Why did we learn on our Mishnah? Whatever is the uber, the fetus, you can eat with the shechita of the mother. But if you severed if you severed the spleen of the mother, or you severed the kidneys of the mother, but that doesn't make it a treifa, and then you shechted the mother, you can't eat that spleen and the kloyes, despite it being inside the animal. Asa b'achila. And it says the Gemara, Amakra, because there's a pasuk that says, Oisa shalema v'loy chasera. That means that the mother has to be whole, and whatever in the mother, part of the mother, only when it's attached to the mother does the shechita work, but not when it's detached. That's what its pasuk is saying. Oisa techelu. Only the mother, when it's complete, you can eat the mother. But when you detach a spleen or a kidney, so then you wouldn't consider it the shechita of the mother going on its own spleen or kidney. So now, elameata, if that's the case, anything found inside an animal that's not part of the mother animal, the shechita of the mother should work for whatever is inside the animal. Elameata, if that's the case, if you shecht an animal and then you find a creature that looks like a dove, so you shecht the mother and you open up and the fetus looks like a dove, so then it should be permitted. Why did Rabbi Yochanan say someone shechts an animal and finds a creature looking like a dove? Asa b'achila, it's asa to eat. Why? Chol, anything found inside the mother should be permitted to eat when you shech the mother. That's what the pasuk says. And says the Gemara, be'inim process v'leika. We need process. We need at least that whatever is inside the animal should have split hooves, should have somewhat split hooves. And therefore, if you find a demus yoina in an animal, then it wouldn't be satisfied with the shechita of the mother. So now the Gemara says, Elamiyat, if that's true, call it b'mei paralitzer. If you find in the stomach of a cow, a animal that doesn't have split hooves, it looks like a camel, it should become aser. And says the Gemara, it doesn't have to have split hooves like the mother, but it has to have some sort of split. It doesn't have a totally split. So then the shechita of the mother will work on the kolet, which is semi-split. But if it looks like a yona, if it looks like a dove inside the mother, then the shechita of the mother will not work on whatever is inside. Now, but the Gemara says like this. That was based on the premise that the pasuk is saying, "V'chol behema," anything that you find inside an animal with the shechita of the mother will work on everything. But the fetus itself is not called an animal. But Rab Shimon Barashi, Rab Shimon Barashi is going to say, look, I will say, Lo'ilam I will tell you that the fetus inside an animal is called an animal. Your question was, Ein Mamirin. If that was the case, why can't I do Tamura from a fetus onto a kachim animal? Why not? Why can't I do kachim to a fetus if the fetus is called an animal? And says the Gemara, Mani Reb Shimon, that Mishnah goes according to Reb Shimon. The Makash Trumur Lamaisa. Ma Maisa Eina Noeg Ela Be'everim Ubarim. Av Tmura Eina Nehegas Be'everim Ubarim. It's a special Gzeir Sakasiv that Meiser and Tmura, Meiser Behema and Tmura are one of the same. And just like Meiser Behema is not on a fetus, so also Tmura cannot be on a fetus despite it becoming, despite it being called an animal. So how do you know that the Tana of that Mishnah is Rab Shimon? How do you know that? So the Gemara is going to try to prove that the Tana of that Mishnah is Rab Shimon. And then the Gemara says it's not necessarily a proof. The answer is still a good answer, but it's not a proof. We don't have really a proof definitively that the Tana of the Mishnah is Rabbi Shimon. How do I know that the Tana of that Mishnah was Rab Shimon? It's not because at the end of that Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi argues, and he says a Tamura could work on an uber and even on a limb of an animal. Because Amar Rabbi Yossi of Alim Kedoshim, wouldn't you agree if you makadesh an animal? If you say this foot should be an oila, kula oila, the whole animal is an oila. So also if you can say this limb should be a tamura for this kachim animal, kula tamura, then the whole animal is tamura tachteha. So now you see that Rabbi Yossi is the second Tana of the Mishnah. And he holds that Averim work, that an Aver to a Tamura, you can make an Aver to a Tamura on an Aver of an animal. You have a Chulin Aver, a Chulin limb, to a Kachim animal, you can make Tamura. So Rabbi Yossi is the second Tana. The first Tana holds that doesn't work. So now, who is the one that argues against Rabbi Yossi? The Manko Mahadale. Who does Rabbi Yossi talk to? Ilema Rabbi Yehuda. Does Rabbi Yossi hold? Is he answering Rabbi Meir Yehuda? Yislei Ha'isvara. Do Rabbi Meir and Yehuda hold of this concept? For Tanya, we learned in a brisa. Yachal Oima Raglazu Shal Oila Teikula Oila Talmud Loima Koil Ashayit Menu Lashem Yia Kodesh Mimenu Kodesh V'Loi Kulei Kodesh. So whoever says this foot should be an Oila, does it spread to the entire body? The pasuk says not so. Pasuk says only the foot remains Kodesh, not everything else. So Yochel takes L'chul. In that case, if you said Raglish Zu Oila, maybe it should go out L'chulin. Talmud Loima Yia Baviyosite. It should remain. It remains kachim. So you have a whole animal with this leg that's kachim. What do you do with it? Okay, tzad. Timochel etzarche oilis v'demelecha. You shecht it for somebody who needs oilis, and the money goes l'chulin except chutz midmei aver shabbat, except that limb. That limb, that the money, the value of that limb should be put into the pushka to bring another carbon. Divrei Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yehuda. So definitely Rabbi Yossi is not saying, oh, you Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yehuda agree Raglish Shazu Oila Kula Oila, because that's not true. Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yehuda don't agree to that concept. So Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Shimon says, Menai Loima Raglish Shazu Oila Te Kula Oila Tamad Loima Yia Rabbi says Kula. So Laman. So Rabbi Yossi and Reb Shimon both agree that if you say Raglish Shazu Oila, it spreads to the entire body. So Laman, either Rabbi Yehuda Yislei Haisvara, Elalav Reb Shimon. So it must be that Rabbi Yossi was talking to Reb Shimon, and basically the Tana of the first brisa, the Tana of the Mishnah, the Tana of the Mishnah is Reb Shimon, and Rabbi Yossi is talking, and it says like this: you Reb Shimon, we both agree by a regular carbon. If you say Raglish Shazu Oila, it spreads, right? We're both agreeing to that. We both say that. Menayim Rabbi Yossi v'Reb Shimon Oimrim. If you say Raglish Shazu Oila, Tei Kula Oila, so it spreads to the entire body. If that's the case, wouldn't you agree with me, Rabbi Shimon, that if you say Tamura to the Raglai of the regal of a Chulin should be Tamura for this animal, it should work also. So that's why we see that the Tana of the Mishnah was Rab Shimon. So the Gemara says, no, not necessary. Rabbi Yossi time at the Nafshe Kama. Rabbi Yossi was talking to himself. Maybe the Tana of the Mishnah is not Rab Shimon. The first Tana is not Rab Shimon. And Rabbi Yossi is saying, since I hold it spreads kulei oila by a regular kachim, therefore a tamura could work by an aver, but not necessarily is a proof. It's not a definitive proof that the Tana that he's talking to is Rabbi Shimon. Okay, but the bottom line is that basically what the Gemara just got through saying is that the two possible reasons why you say ben pekua is permitted with the shechita of the mother, either v'chol b'behema, that's the first method, that any animal in an animal, any uber inside an animal, it could be it's satisfied with the shechita of the mother, but that is premised on calling the uber an animal. But then the Gemara says that was the first opinion of Shimi Barashi held like that. But then there's another way to learn v'chol, anything inside an animal, even if it's not called an animal, like the fetus, it's not called an animal, it's satisfied with the shechita of the mother. Okay, so this ends Daf Samach Tes Chullin, and we'll stop by the Mishnah.